Hello and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It is Sunday morning, which means it's time for Good Morning Foxes. Thanks to everyone already here in the chat. Much appreciated. We'll get everyone's comments up on screen shortly. First, though, want to introduce these lovely people who are on screen right now. Neil, how are you doing, mate?
I'm all right. After yesterday's result, feeling okay, I'd say, which is not what I hear, but yeah, I'm doing all right, mate. Can't complain. What about yourself?
Yeah, all good here, mate. Thank you very much. I'm joined by LCFC Doc. His debut on the channel was yesterday after the game, and he's back already. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be back on. I recognize Manu, who I spent a lot of time with chatting Leicester before, so good to see him again. I'm excited to talk about in retrospective, a decent point on the road.
Absolutely. And Manny, mate, how are you? Oh, you're on mute, mate. On mute. While you... No, can't hear you, mate. While you saw that...
Can you hear me now? Apologies.
Oh, got you.
Sorry, amateur. Yeah, just to hear what you guys got to make of yesterday, because I didn't actually catch the game.
There we go. He did warn me. He's not just shown up this morning, just going to drop us in it. He did warn me he hasn't seen much of the game. But there are still some things, some opinions that I want from Manny on certain topics. We're going to get right into it. Everybody in the chat, please get all of your comments in throughout the stream. Let us know what you thought of the game yesterday. I'll see who's here. Ray says, I told you Booba would save us in the watch along. Costa says morning locks the day after, the afternoon before. He also says, I'll go first then. I'm worried about the upcoming fixtures. I'm hoping that a small miracle happens soon and we create a new Enzo Cooper system that all players can be on board with. Morning to you, Clibber, mate. Hope you're doing well. No more bog troll Cooper. Enough is enough. Players and fans are confused by his coward tactics. Anil for fuck's sake. Ayew for Ballon d'Or. And Clemo says, good morning, boys. Right, guys. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to talk about the lineup that we fielded. So there was a couple surprises in there. I thought, some of us thought Fatawu might be injured, and Ricardo started again, even though JJ and Kristiansen were both fit. Obviously, Christian played on the other side. Neil, mate, what with the lineup, did it surprise you? Any names in there?
Yeah, I think the ones you mentioned, obviously, Jordan Ayew not being in the team is always a surprise under a Steve Cooper system, I think we found. Kristiansen playing left back. It's the first time we've seen him play left back in that formation. Vestergaard obviously starting. I know he played a little bit of a cameo role. Nothing, but it was an attacking lineup, and again, it was showing that risk that we've kind of needed in order when we've gone ahead in games or when we've actually gone to win games, we've showed a little bit of risk and attacking intent. I was happy with the starting lineup. But yeah, again, Kristiansen was my probably only weakness, especially with Amari Hutchinson being on that side, in that position. But I think we'll get into that a little bit. But I was happy with the starting lineup.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I think a lot of us were. Manny, I know again you didn't watch the game, but when you did see the lineup, what did you think?
I did see the highlights, the extended highlights, by the way. But yeah, I agree with what Neil just said. I think I quite like the team setup. Just one change. I think if we're going to go to a back three, then playing Victor as a left-sided centre-back in a back three is not his ideal position. I'm not convinced yet that he's there. Mostly because we've got Okoli on the bench, right? So I would have naturally put Okoli to that left-hand side. He did a great job of looking after Saka when we played Arsenal, when he was forced to. So I would have liked Okoli, but that's just one change. And apart from that, the rest of the 10 I quite liked.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, obviously, LCFC Doc, mate, talked to me about the team. I know I spoke to you again a little bit yesterday after the game, but what did you make to the lineup that Cooper put out?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartely agree with Manny in terms of the Kristiansen point, right? I think he's a good left back for the Premier League. I think in the 1v1 against Amari Hutchinson, he was fine, but the problem with him is playing him in that left centre back role. That is just not what he wants to play, or what suits his playing style, right? That's the only reason he wasn't here last season under Enzo Maresca, because he wasn't going to be willing to play that left centre back role. So, I mean, in the beginning of the season when we had the left back bombing up and down the field, Kristiansen perfectly fit that role. But now when we have changed kind of back to Enzo Maresca tactics in terms of the right back inverting into the midfield, left back dropping into left centre back, that kind of pairings puts Kristiansen out of the picture, and I think someone like maybe James Justin or Caleb Okoli should be playing that position instead, which is which probably would have been better. But I will say, I thought Kristiansen did very well in the 1v1 against Soumare Hutchinson. He didn't get any huge chances off, and normally it just went out to either a corner or a throw-in when they went in the duel.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you make there. I completely forgot about this, but it is true. Obviously, Victor Kristiansen, I think when he did leave to go on loan at Bologna last season, there was a bit of speculation. Was it Enzo who got rid of him because, you know, he's not a traditional, well, he can't really invert into that left centre back role, or was it his choice? And I think more recently it's come out that it was Kristiansen's choice. He didn't want to play in that role, so that's why he left. I mean, Manny, you've spoken a lot about a left-footed player being in that role. Do you think Kristiansen can do it, or do you think JJ's maybe a better option?
I don't think either of them are a good option, to be honest. Who's
the better option?
Out of the two in that centre-back role, if you're forcing me, I would go with Kristiansen over JJ in that role. JJ is a left centre-back role is his sort of least favoured position. His attacking strengths is agility and pace down the wing, athleticism down there. His passing range from that area is not going to work. We do need left-footed balance. We do need that left-footed centre-back to end up being a left-back at times too. And I still prefer, I know Victor's been getting a lot of dislike at times this season, but we've seen with JJ just lots of individual errors that are leading to goals. How many? 4 or 5 this season we've had? And, you know, it just goes on and on and on. And we tried that against Forest, and he made another mistake there. He just didn't look comfortable in that role, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're making a very good point about Kristiansen, right? And the thing is, even when he's playing that left center back roles, every now and then he does get the chance to go forward. Like, he almost scored against Ipswich yesterday. If you guys didn't remember, I think it was from a Fatawu cross, where it was a very good save from Muric, who barely got a foot on it before it went in. So he even managed to direct the ball goalwards, even in a very tight space. And that's really what Kristiansen wants to do, right? Either be the one putting in the cross or coming at the end of it, playing as an offensive left back. And even as the left center back, he still gets the chance to do that, where I would much rather have him do that than, let's say, JJ, for example.
Well, Neil, I mean, you know, on Matchday Lives in the past, we've discussed Kristiansen and maybe how him and Mavididi don't suit each other in that other system that we've played in the past, and now he doesn't really suit this system. I mean, what do you think, Matt, on the whole situation with Kristiansen?
I'll be honest, I think he's sad, and then I don't agree. I don't rate him at all. Not because I just think he works in a system where he plays as a wing back. And I think that would be the best way out of him. The problem is he doesn't really defend well enough. He doesn't really attack well enough. So I don't exactly know what his role is within the team. If he decides to go, for example, if there's an opposition, you know, we look when we played the Enzo ball system last season, and Callum Dore, yes, he was slow on the turn, but you could see offensive-wise, he'd get up that position, he'd whip crosses in. I've not seen Kristiansen do that much since the beginning. He does give you a little bit of physicality, but the reason why he's in that team is because of scarcity. We're going back to that position. Again, he didn't want to play. He didn't want to be in the system. But he's either go, well, I either play or I don't. I think that's a real position of we've not got the strength in that position to really make the most of it. I personally would still pick James Justin in over Kristiansen. I've just not been impressed. In the last few games, I've not seen what he'd really offered to us on a consistent basis. And I think at times I think a part of it is coaching. He's not been coached in the right way to really get the most out of him. But yeah, I've genuinely not been impressed with him. Not to hate on him, but I've just not been impressed with him. And it's interesting that the 2 times we've took him off, we've actually went and actually scored or actually progressed the ball a lot quicker. If you think about Southampton and then you think about Ipswich as well, we actually took him off, put on, I think it was Ayew, for a straight flop, and we started to attack and press a lot better.
I mean, the thing about that is, right, the big thing with Kristiansen, when he was at his best, when we first broke through to the Copenhagen first team, that was with Mohamed Darami on his left as well. And those two really formed a good partnership. The problem with his partnership with Mavididi, it feels like Mavididi, obviously, what I really wanted him to do here is utilize the option that Kristiansen gave him in the beginning of the season, the overlapping fullback on the left, to then use that and then allow Kristiansen to get the crosses in. But I think too often, although he should do it sometimes, Mavididi instead decides to go with the ball on his own and cuts inside and tries to get the shot off or cross himself, which is obviously good. You need the mix-up like Fatawu does as well. He obviously sometimes goes for the shot, sometimes goes for the cross. But the problem is when 90% of the time you don't utilize the overlapping fullback, well, it becomes too easy for your opponents to read what you're about to do. And Kristiansen wastes too much energy and too much time trying to get in a good position to cross the ball and potentially even assist. And it just doesn't really come to anything, and it is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, look how handy it is. We've got a Danish Leicester fan here, and it's good because we've got Hermansen, we've got Vestergaard, we've got Kristiansen, so it's very handy. Thank you so much, mate. So I want to move on to another defender in the team now, and it was the return of Yannick Vestergaard. What did you make to him yesterday, Neil?
I thought I thought when we played to his strengths, Leicester looked better. When we started to hoof it long, when we started to not get the ball to him, in the first 15 minutes, I was really impressed because I was thinking, can he do it in the Premier League? Because we all know the thing is with Yannick, he's got no turning and he's quite slow. But when he got the ball, especially in the first 15 minutes, he was looking up and he was picking passes. And that's what we want from him. He was playing the nice 1-2s into Ricardo and Winks, playing the two coming across. I thought was really good. But then after 15 minutes, they decided to change the tactics. And what we've done is we've negated the biggest strength of Yannick Vestergaard. So for me, I think he was good. But the reason why we didn't see more of him is because the manager changed. And it meant that we're not trying to play out from the back, trying to slow down the game. And which Vestergaard's good at, inviting the press, playing riskier style of football. And when we didn't play a risky style of football, you don't get the best out of Vestergaard. So I was disappointed for him, to be honest, because I think we started the game in the first 50 minutes and we created some brilliant opportunities, but it's a fault of the manager not to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I mean, Mane, obviously, I think Vestergaard played, the first 2 or 3? I can't remember. I think it was 2. He came out the team. Okoli came in. Okoli did quite well to start with, but recently he's made some mistakes. Clearly, Cooper's taken him out the firing line. Now Yannick is back. I mean, what do you think to it? Because he was instrumental last season under Enzo, and Enzo is the one who gave him this new contract, by the way. What do you make to him being back around the team now?
He has clear strengths and he has clear weaknesses, doesn't he? So from a strengths point of view, you can see him at the base there, trying to start the play, always being available for a pass, trying to find that link to Winks in particular. But when it comes a sort of game of basketball and it gets quite speedy and it gets end to end, you see the lack of pace, you see the turning circle, you see the confusion positionally sometimes. You can see some rash challenges and you can see the occasional sloppy touch when it's a fast game. I think the difference between last season and this season is that it was much slower last season. We had much more patience in our play. It was all about ball retention. Just work it wide, back central, work it the other side, work it back central. Just keep the ball, keep moving. Whereas it seemed like, from what I've seen of yesterday, we're trying to progress the ball too fast, too quickly, too forward. So when it doesn't work out, the ball comes back across us. And when you start getting sort of a basketball type pace into the game, he's going to look dangerous in defence too. So my advice would be try and take the sting out of the game as much as possible and slow it down, and then you won't really see his weaknesses exposed so much.
I mean, LCFC Duck, I mean, Manny mentioned there sometimes maybe we get the ball too forward too quickly. That's what all the Facebook clock was screaming for last year. Get it forward quicker and all this. But yeah, what do you make to what Manny said there, especially about Yannick?
Yeah, I think it's a very good characteristic of the player, right? Because it is a player with clear strength and clear weaknesses. Like I will genuinely die on this hill that I think that on the ball, Yannick Vestergaard is world class. His ball playing ability is absolute insanity. But everything else is the reason he's playing at Leicester, not at Man City, right? The pace and the consistency, you could say. And I think as someone who's watching both in the Danish national team setup, but also at Leicester, right? He's normally pretty good at hiding his weaknesses, the lack of pace in particular. He goes for these risky 50-50s because he realizes that if I go for a straight pace battle, well, I'm just going to lose it. So he goes for these 50-50s, and when they work, they look very good, and they're able to retain the ball. But when they then lose these 50-50s, and my uncle normally says that in the national team, once or twice every game, Yannick Vestergaard will give away a goal-scoring opportunity because he tries this 50-50 to hide his lack of pace. And then when he loses that, well, there are acres of space behind him where the opponents can then run into and get a pretty clear one-on-one with the keeper normally. And that's kind of the problem, right? And those errors come more regularly when the ball gets turned over more often, of course, and when the pace is so high that errors happen more frequently.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make to this comment here, Neil, from a Nil? He says there was a slight mix-up about 10 minutes where Vestergaard got caught trying to play out, and a few minutes later we started going along. Think Tate or Cooper panic. Do you think that might have been the case?
That makes sense. I didn't actually see that. I don't remember that, but essentially that would make sense what kind of lined up with what I was thinking. We started to play out from the back. We started to create a lot of opportunities. And by not playing out from the back, we started to rush the ball. And by rushing it, it wasn't good game management. So we're kind of like just the ball was pinging around everywhere. But also we started to go high. We didn't play the ball along the floor. We started to play it, against Forest, we did the similar thing where we started playing the ball up in the air and around. And our players aren't very good at that. And it basically brought, if you look at the match, like the match momentum,
this was the first half. This was the first half.
Yeah, we can see here the first 15 minutes or so, and then you can see where we've changed, and that's kind of where it was going. Yes, we did have a moment after that, but we started to by playing it quick, by not playing to the strength of Vestergaard and starting to play out from the back, we brought them back into the game. And they're a good team at Ipswich, but they aren't Premier League level at the moment, and that's fine. But we should be doing better against those kind of teams. And for me, we ended on such a low. We're coming into it because Ipswich had the better of the opportunities. They had the better of the ball possession. They started dictating play. They started getting Leif Davis in positions. They started getting Mari Hudson one-on-one with Kristiansen. So all these little things started to build, and you're thinking, oh God, we do need to change it. So he did change it, but he changed it for the worst. And if you look at the overall, it didn't benefit us by Cooper changing it. He actually made the system worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to talk about the Ipswich's goal now. Recently, we have had many goals go against us where it's kind of pointing fingers, just big mistakes. Who's to blame? I'll open this up to any of you, whoever wants to take this question. Who is to blame for that goal? Because, I mean, Ricardo was caught out a little bit, I think, by Leif Davis. The ball went straight over his head. And obviously, what a finish, by the way, Leif Davis. But, yeah, who are we blaming for that one? Anyone?
I'll take it. I don't think there's anyone to blame. The guy scored an absolute worldie. In every game of football, if the opposition play to such a level of accuracy that they're going to put in a pinpoint pass and the guy's going to do an almost Van Basten into the other corner, you can't legislate for stuff like that. You can't throw blame at every, an individual player, say Ricardo, went over his head. He's playing in that position for a reason, because that is unlikely the ball will reach the target. And structurally, he's in that position for attacking reasons too. If we get the ball, we want him to be in that central pivot role that we've been talking about, for example. So you can't be in the central pivot role and be at right back at the same time in two places at once. So what do you want? And we've conceded we want Ricardo to play there. So there is going to be a bit of space down that right-hand side at times, and you have to allow for that. But it's not every week that the left back's going to come in and smack a volley into the corner, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great goal. I wholeheartedly agree that we shouldn't be blaming the players too much. There is one thing that I've noticed, though, that we defend very, very narrowly sometimes. Like we get caught out with three players, like in the back line. When you see we turn over the ball, Ricardo was about to head into the midfield, but hadn't done so quite yet. He very quickly notices that Leif Davis has plenty of space and tries to make up for that. But we were just simply too narrow. Like we have three defenders with like very, very close to each other. And I think one thing that I have noticed is Fatau is being used a bit more as I don't want to say wing back, but he definitely has more defensive duties than last year, even though he did have some last year as well. Multiple times throughout the game, him and Ricardo both teamed up on Leif Davis and whoever, Jack Clark or whoever played down that left-hand side. And Fatau wasn't there. Ricardo was about to head into the midfield, and that just leaves acres of space. And then, yeah, absolutely brilliant finish from Leif Davis. Nothing you can say to that. Mads Hermansen couldn't get to it. It was just a brilliant bit of play, but it is just a general trend that I've noticed that sometimes, and as many said, right, it's because Ricardo wants to get into the midfield. We end up sitting too narrow, and there's just too much space down that left-hand side.
Yeah, Neil, any thoughts on this goal, mate?
Pretty much. It's important to mention that probably 85% of the time, that shot goes wildly off target as somebody just throws a foot at it, and then it ends up in the stand with half the crowd going, hey, because that's the kind of ball it was coming over. He just caught it perfectly. And it was such a good finish. But again, I don't legislate too much for that, and that's going to happen in football. You're not going to be able to shut teams out, even though I think we've only had one clean sheet so far this season. We're not going to be able to shut teams out. But the thing is, it's how you react to that. How do we go? And, well, we'll probably come on to the red card a little bit later, but yeah, so I don't blame the team too much for that first goal but again, it was just a brilliant shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Krishna says, I didn't want to watch the game. I didn't watch the game. Answer me one question, Cooper. We'll get on to Cooper shortly. Don't worry. The next guy I want to talk about here is the match. No, let's leave him till last. The red card. Let's get on to the red card now, Neil, like you mentioned. So in the first half, I think it was the first half, the yellow card on, was it Facundo Buonanotte? Yeah. Calvin Phillips went in basically on the back of his head with his kind of forearm or elbow, whatever you want to call it. I thought potentially that could have been a red alone, but I think it was probably looked at as not intentional. I think he was just going in to win the ball. Did you see that, Manny? Did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
What did you make to it? Because I thought it was dangerous. You know, you can't even do that in boxing. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it was worth a VAR look. I'm not saying it was definitely a red. I think you're probably right. It was slightly accidental. So a yellow felt about right on balance for me.
Yeah. Neil, what did you make to the challenge, mate?
The first yellow card or the second one?
Yeah, the first yellow, mate. The first yellow.
I think it's just a yellow. I don't think it was deliberate or intentional. But when you've got a contact sport, sometimes this thing happens. So,
yeah. LCFC Duck, mate, did you see it? And what did you make to it? Because again, I thought it was dangerous, but hey ho.
Yeah. I mean, just reckless, right? I mean, that's kind of what gave him both his yellow cards, just being a bit reckless in the challenge, either going in late or going completely recklessly to win the ball. So I thought both yellow cards were completely warranted. And I mean, yeah, I think although the referee overall wasn't that great, I think both of those yellow cards were correct calls.
And the second one, I mean, it came just after a penalty call. First of all, on the penalty call, I thought it was a penalty.
Yeah, it should have been a penalty.
When I saw it first time, I was like, oh, shit, like that's a penalty. And then when I saw the replay, I thought, no, that's definitely a penalty. And then VAR were like, well, I don't even know if they checked it, but they said no penalty. I mean, Neil, what did you think? Because I was shocked.
To be fair, I missed that part of the game, unfortunately, so I can't really comment on it.
Manny?
I saw it, yeah, and do you remember early in the season where Steve Cooper was complaining about refereeing decisions? We're not getting this, we're not getting that. Well, we've had 2 stone cold penalties against us, not given, with the Ayew one at Southampton, where he pulled the Southampton striker, and Fatawi's challenge is a penalty. We got away with it twice now.
For me, Doc, it was definitely a penalty. I mean, he ran into him and just knocked him over.
I mean, to me, what Manny is saying, it's more the Southampton one. I don't think that was a penalty at all. I think definitely there could have been something there, but I don't want to say that was a penalty. I definitely agree with you on this one though against Ipswich. That was a stonewall penalty. Fatau a bit too reckless sometimes in his defending. I think most times he actually makes it look pretty good when he comes in from behind and gets the ball, often without giving away a free kick. But like he just straight up rugby tackles him here. There is nothing to defend. That was a stonewall penalty, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that. I mean, that just makes up for last year when Dewsbury Hall was supposed to be given a penalty when we were 1-0 up against Ipswich right away from home. So I guess things evens. You didn't
think the pull on the shirt in the Southampton game was a penalty?
I don't think it was. The ball wasn't even coming to Unuachu. I think the ball was heading to Simonsen's way. I mean, I can understand that you could see it as such, but I didn't think that was a penalty at all. To be honest, I really don't think so.
But you can't pull someone's shirt even if they're not in contention for the ball in the box when there's penalty. It doesn't have to be challenging for the ball.
But then you normally but don't you just normally call the ball back then and then retake the corner, retake the free kick? We often see a lot of pushing and shoving around the
box.
It does happen sometimes, though.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens before the ball gets kicked, or if it begins before, then the referee normally calls it out and tells them to stop, and then they just either retake it. It's about when the ball gets kicked, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm gonna be honest, man. Had that ball been hitting towards Unuachu, I can see the store. Then that's a penalty as well. But to me,
have you seen the size of the guy? He's 9 foot tall. He's absolutely massive. Anything within about 100 meters is within his range in the air.
I mean, had it been given, I probably would have been complaining too hard. But I think it's fine that it hasn't been given. I don't see that as a scandal. Whereas I think this one was a stonewall penalty denied.
Hey, that's fine by me. I'm loving the blue tinted glasses this morning.
Hey. And then, literally in the aftermath of that, I think as they were, the ball came to Ricardo, Calvin went to win it, wiped him out. I mean, we hate obviously seeing challenges like that on Ricardo just because of his injury history. It kind of makes me kind of go like that a little bit, but he was okay, thankfully. And yeah, he got the second yellow. Calvin got a second yellow, set him off. I think we didn't even see it live because it was obviously showing a replay of the penalty call. Again, go on, Manny.
Look,
go on.
I want to make a complaint about that. Why did Ricardo get up so quickly? What are you doing, Ricardo? Stay down, roll around, make it look like he's absolutely killed you. We need to guarantee the red card. Why is he popping up, almost shaking the hand, saying, "Oh no, it's all fine"?
Did it already happen though? Had the ref already sent him
Make
off?
It worse. Roll around, guarantee the VAR, play the game, Ricardo. You should know better.
Yeah. I mean, Doc, I know you said obviously a few minutes ago that it was, they were both 2 yellow cards challenges. Yeah, so you think no doubt about it had to be a red.
Yeah, I thought he came in too late to the challenge, and as you said, in terms of Ricardo's injury record, from what I was watching, the camera very quickly pans to following the ball, so I didn't see how Ricardo reacted. But I did think he came in late there, and it looks like Ricardo could have genuinely been hurt by that. And again, I mean, I don't think there was any ill intent. It was just a end-to-end game. Tension was high, and reckless yet again from Calvin Phillips. I thought it was completely correct yellow card. Yeah,
Neil, what did you make of it? Because I mean, he's just not having a great time, is he, Calvin? Since leaving Leeds, it's not gone well for him, really, has it? At 3 clubs now. Well, he hasn't been terrible at Ipswich, but he's got a red now, hasn't he? So,
yeah, I mean, I didn't really notice him too much in the game, but at the end of the day, you should be making it's this part of the game is game management, and even for your own individual player. So, I don't know. But yeah, it's the thing is, you play to your advantage. Again, you play as Manny was saying, you got to roll around a little bit. You can't. At the end of the day, honesty doesn't get you points in the game. So you've got to kind of play it to your advantage where you see it. And some of the best players in the game, Jamie Vardy does it all the time. Yep. Some of that he does really well. You get the opposition, or he'll dangle a leg out and try and win a penalty. Is it ethical? Probably not. But again, he's trying to get the team, he's trying to win us points, and to get the top, you've kind of do that. I think one of the best examples of that, something like what's his name? Got his name, Diego Costa from Chelsea. He was a proper he was awful because you played against him, but if he was playing for you, you'd absolutely love him.
Absolutely. Right. Let's move on to 2 players that really made a difference when they came on. When we were still 1-0 down, and they are Soumare and Jordan Ayew. Now, let's start with Soumare. I mean, look, he came on against Man United, and he impressed quite a lot of people. I still think Neil's got a bee in his bonnet about him, hearing him on a Neil stream last night. But I'll come to you in a second, Neil. But LCFC, talk to me. You talk to me first about Soumare, the impact that he made when he came on.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was good yesterday. He was decent against Manchester United, right? And the big change, and I mentioned this yesterday, he just didn't seem asked to be at the club for so long. Like he went out on loan last season when he played. He barely sprinted. I mean, you could see his technical ability was good, but it just felt like he needed that extra bit of motivation to really drive himself forward into a winning position. And the way he wins the ball back there, running back, trying to recover it, does so well, and then just carries the ball 30 yards up the field. I mean, absolutely incredible, right? That's what he needed to really excel, to have that extra drive, to have that extra fighting power. And I thought, yeah, that in particular, that is a real big change I've seen in him from when he has recently played for Leicester to now. It actually feels like he wants to play and fight hard for his place, which I really, really respect.
Manny, what did you make to what you did see of Soumare? I mean, you would have seen the lead up to our goal, of course, but yeah, what did you make to it?
When he monstered that player, I think that might be the highlight of the season for me so far. Just when he just shoved him out of the way. It was like rugby. It's just a handoff. Just get down on the floor. We've had this chat about Soumare before. There's always been a player there. You don't win the French league as a young lad, and you don't have so many clubs looking for you if you don't have a player there. Sevilla don't want to take you on loan if you're not potentially a talented player. I think Roma have been linked with him. These clubs aren't daft. They've done their homework. They know there's a player. The problem's always been psychologically. It's always in the mind. Does he want to be there? Did he just come for money? Is he happy in the area? Is he happy in England? Maybe he doesn't like the food. Maybe he's struggling with the language. Maybe he doesn't have any friends. Maybe he's missing European culture. Who knows? But in terms of an actual footballer, there is a player there somewhere. Now, the art of management is to try and cultivate that, the quality, the happiness. I think he needs a lot of love. I would, be all over into him every single day, bumping him up, boosting his confidence, telling him how talented he is, because we've seen what he can do. We saw the chance against Man United that the keeper saved and it hit the bar. We've seen he can do defensive stuff. We've seen he's mobile. And I always remember the game, I think it was the 4-0, the 4 goals that Daka scored at Moscow. Soumare was absolutely outstanding in that. It was Europa League game, but one day we might want to play Europa football again one day. There is a player there if you can get him focused. Or even if you can't get him focused, then put him in the shop window so someone else can maybe find a home for him and we can recoup some of the funds we outlaid.
I mean, Neil, your turn, mate. First of all, I want you to answer this. What is his best position? Is he more of a 6 or an 8? Can he play maybe as a high 8? What do you think about him?
I don't know what his best position is, to be honest with you. It's not quite. If you think about the box midfield, is he Ricardo? No. Is he Winks? Not quite. Is he a high pressing 8? No. He's kind of like a maybe a box to box, but again, I don't have anything against
Yaya Toure.
Yeah, potentially, but we thought that, and I thought he could be really useful in the team. But
yeah,
it's pretty much what Manny said. It's we've had the time, and we do need somebody to get the best out of him. But I don't know if Steve Cooper's that, and also. People like to get impressed by highlights, and he's been a great player over this last week, but it is his mentality. And for me, that's even worse than just being a terrible player. Because you got someone like Jordan Ayew, again, we'll come on to later, who has the opposite problem. Might not have the mentality, he has the mentality, but doesn't have the technique. And I'd rather have people like them in the side. Now, with a moment of brilliance, like Soumare did, it's great. And he was, if you actually watch him tracking back, he's not actually breaking a gut to get back. And again, it is against the championship side. He's just, again, and then he shrugs off 2 players brilliantly. Then he puts the ball in, obviously, at Vardy, and then for the first got brilliant. But the reason why I think people get emotions are part of football, people have to think about it for the longer term. That's what I was thinking. He's had a brilliant couple of games. Can he build on this? Can he continue to develop? And I'm more than happy to see him. People forget he had a really long run in the team under Brendan Rodgers, where Ndidi was out of the team and it was Soumare and Yuri Tillemans, and he didn't really impress. I want him to impress. I want any Leicester player to come on and do well, but I think people are over-exaggerating how well he's doing because of one move, because it looks good in a 42-second clip.
I know what you're saying, Neil, and I would normally agree with exactly what you just said, but there is the scope. If you think about it from another point of view, if you move to a different country what was he, 22? I mean, that's pretty young, right? You've never lived in another country. You don't speak the language. You don't know anybody. You've left every comfort environment you have. Remember, he's from Lille. He's not from Paris, so he's not used to hustle and bustle. It's much quieter in Lille. And I think as you grow up, you have more life experiences. He's lived in Spain. He's lived in different places now. He's starting to grow up, and maybe he's starting to appreciate the opportunity he has at Leicester and the training facilities and stuff. And for whatever reason, you never know which manager's going to click with which player. There's lots of managers that love Neil Warnock, and there's lots of players that hate Neil Warnock. Sorry, and maybe he's found something that he enjoys with Cooper. Look, we didn't think he'd be in the picture at all, but he is starting to get himself into the picture because of good displays. The only way to get back in the team is by, when you do get on, impress, right? So that's 2 games in a row. He's come on and he's impressed. So if he comes on in the 3rd game and impresses again, then he's starting to push for a start should anybody dip their level.
That's the thing. And some players are better at becoming super subs rather than becoming starters. And now if Soumare starts to playing, again, we don't know because we've not seen him for so long. We've only seen him short burst appearances. And for me, it's just like people are getting a little bit carried away with his appearances, thinking he should start every week. Let's keep him as that super sub. Bear in mind, he's keeping out at 25 million, but I think we spoke, Manny, last time. He's keeping out Oliver Skipp. As somebody mentioned, he's keeping out an Oliver Skipp who we paid 25 million for, who's, again, not even getting in the team now, which is another discussion for another time. And he's credit to him. He's been better. And I agree. But we need to, again, just introduce him at little bursts and see what he can do. Some players, again, I believe, like Jordan Ayew, are better at being super subs than they are being starters. I think the Premier League is going to be too quick for him. When you look at Man United, they took their foot off the gas. They were 5-0 up. We don't need to do anything now. That's happy. Also, they were down to 10 men when Soumare came on. I'm not saying that as an excuse why he did so well. I'm glad he did so well, but you have to put these contexts in places. And then when you go to starting game, it's a different level of mentality that you need compared to when you're trading a game or when you're a team has basically gone, we're not going to get anything else more of the game. We've won now.
What I will say though, just the one big point I have about Soumare, it's just the fact that I remember him having decent games on the Brendan Rodgers, in particular the Wolves game where I thought maybe we could stay up, where we won 2-1, came from behind, and Soumare was a crucial part of that. But it just still felt like there was just so much left to unpack. And every single minute I've seen him on the field against United, where he did start, and then now against yes, it's against a 10-minute Ipswich, but it seems like something has changed in his mentality and work rate, and that is just, to me, what I feel like he needed to unlock that final bit of himself. And if he can keep this high work rate up, this determination to get himself into the starting 11 and run back and forth as a box-to-box midfielder, then he has the technical abilities to be a Premier League level player. I have no doubt about that. And that's the reason I'm now quietly optimistic, I want to say, because it feels like we've seen that change. It's not just good technical showcase. It's the work rate that has really changed. And that is what he needs to keep doing if he wants to get into the starting 11.
The last question I have about Soumare, Manny, I want you to answer this question. Yeah. Krishna says, I think he needs to be in double pivot with someone who can cover him defensively, like Skipper and Didi. That is my last question on Soumare. If Soumare is going to be in the team, right, who does he play alongside?
That's a cracking question. I think at the moment, he's probably going to have to be a replacement for Ndidi if you want to drop Ndidi. Now, you know my feelings on that matter. You don't drop Ndidi. The defensive stats will tell you that. But it does give us options. We could play 3 midfielders, for example, if we wanted to go down that route. We could look at him instead of wings. We could look at him maybe in a more advanced role at 8, depending on what he's doing at training. It's just nice to have those options. But the question that I have now is, does Soumare's elevation put him above Skip in the pecking order?
Obviously, because that's why he's starting and Skip's not.
So why did we pay £25 million for Oliver Skip when we had Soumare, a player of this talent, on the bench, where we need surgery in other areas?
Which I agree with. However, we are in this situation at the moment. I agree with potentially why, and getting him Skip isn't the problem. It was the amount of money that, for me, that was the problem, getting him in when we had these replacements. But maybe that's just the manager going, I want this player, and the club going, okay. They just didn't realise what kind of gem was there in Soumare when he was signed up. But again, that's on the board and the management.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring this comment up, noting you're on the wrong channel if you want to see some happy clappers, mate. We're definitely not happy clappers, trust me on that. But yeah, he also says this is how far the standards. I don't think he's talking about us guys, but this is how far the standards of our fans have fallen. Celebrating a last-minute smash and grab draw with Ipswich, like we've won the league.
If you're in the stadium, though, you celebrate it. You celebrate it.
It doesn't matter where you are. You celebrate a last-minute equalise. I don't care if it's against like Man United, it's against Ipswich, or it's against Plymouth, whatever. It's just that's if you're not going to celebrate last-minute equalisers in football, what's the point of watching the match? You may as well have turned off on the 90th minute. So what were you watching the last 7 minutes for? You know what I mean? So go on, Manny. I look like you're going to say something there.
No, it's last season we played them twice and it was 1-1 both times. So it's not a terrible result. And Villa have been there and got a point this season. It's one of those old-fashioned grounds. It's a nightmare to drive to. Takes forever to get there. It's not pleasant at all. The fans are rabid. They're hungry for Premier League football. It's not the worst result, and particularly because think about the difference between if they get 3 points on us versus they get 0 on us. And so it maintains that gap massively. So that one goal, because it's against a direct rival in the relegation fight, it's actually a massive goal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Points are points. We were poor and didn't really deserve anything, so we should celebrate. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that takes us on to the last guy I want to talk about, and it is Jordan Ayew. Now, this one split the fan base, I think, when he joined. Well, I wouldn't even say split. I think the majority of fans were like, "What are we doing?" But because the fee is rumored to be up to 8 million, again, the fee is the talking point. But I would argue, he's been one of our best players this season, important players, one of our most important players. I mean, Doc, talk to me on Jordan Ayew.
I think we are seeing him in the role that I hope that he would play. I've always said that I didn't think signing Jordan Ayew was a bad idea. I thought the price we paid for him were just way over the market value. Like £8 million for a player at that age, that is crazy, right? But I thought he would be a good squad player, and he's shown that now, right? I don't think he should be starting, to be honest, even with these performances. But bring him in on for the last 20, 25 minutes if we need a goal. He'll add something extra in the attack. And what I really liked was it was very clear Ipswich attack or defense was destabilized when all of a sudden we had two strikers playing in both Jordan Ayew and Jamie Vardy. He seems to be a good character. He seems he's likable. I mean, I'm not mad at Ayew at all for being at the club, and I think he's doing a good job. It's more so just the price we paid for him was still a bit over the market, but like this super sub role, I think could certainly be suiting him throughout the season.
Manny, I've said on this channel, me, Luke, I think you probably, Anil and Neil, combined you there. We've all said, he shouldn't be starting games, but finishing games, I think, as an impact is probably the right thing to do. And I think he can make an impact in both cases, whether we're winning, trying to see out the win, or if we're losing and we need an impact from a player.
No, he adds valuable experience to the squad. I don't think any of us envisaged him being a starting player. We always thought he would be 20 minutes, come on as sub in one of 3 or 4 positions, depending on who's tired at the time. If there is an injury, then you're definitely in contention for a starting spot. And I think that remains the same despite these late goals. Remember, we are playing against 10 men. The teams are defending for their lives, so they're not really looking to attack so much. But fair play to him. I mean, he scored the goals. I think he's... How much did Palace pay for Nketiah, and how many goals has Ayew got this season compared to Nketiah? I mean, the fee was next to nothing. I know we're talking about £5 and £8 million, but in Premier League money, this is nothing. This is peanuts. And if a person contributes 3, 4, 5 points for the season, then you've got a value for money for the fee alone, and you've got him for 3 years for that fee. And this guy's in good shape. He can play 4 positions. He's probably got another 3 years, 4 years in his career anyway at this level. So there's no signs of him dipping. But let's not get carried away by, a couple of late goals. I love fans. There's so much recency bias. He scores. He should start the next game. He has a good 15 minutes. He should start the next game. Why hasn't he been playing? But steady on. He is an impact player off the bench.
To answer your question, 30 million he cost. Yeah. He cost 30 million, and he's Nketiah, and he scored 0 goals in the Premier League. 0. And Ayew's got... Is this 2 or 3 for Ayew?
Second goal, 2? And then one in the cup as well.
Second in the... Yeah. Exactly.
There we go. So yesterday, obviously, when he came on, I've got a little graphic here just to show. So he played 14 minutes. He had 6 touches. 2 of them were a shot on target. 1 of them was a goal. 2 aerial duels, 100% pass accuracy. I mean, what an impact, Doc. Incredible, mate. Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing that I've taken away from the season so far is not just an Ayew, but the whole squad. They really have the grit and determination it takes, I think, to stay in the Premier League, right? We've been able to respond so many times from going behind. Tottenham, Everton, Ipswich, Southampton now. We've come away with points from losing positions. And that is something that I remember from our relegation season. It very much felt like when we conceded the first goal, we'd like to concede 1 more, and then we'd start playing the game, trying to come back from 2 behind, which never worked. But here it feels like you can see the team are unhappy with going behind. They put in that extra effort. And I think when we discussed the Ricardo incident earlier where Manny said he needs to stay down, I think the reason Ricardo got up because he wanted to get on with the game. He wanted to use the time wisely. They wanted to get the ball up the field and score the goal so we could get some points on the board. I like what I'm seeing from that squad as a whole, and that's what gives me hope for staying up, because I think the system we're playing in, it's by no means Premier League level, but the squad in and of itself has the quality to find moments like we saw yesterday to get points, but also the grit and determination required to keep working hard even when things are not going your way.
Neil, talk to me about Jordan Ayew, mate.
I mean, it's already been said, and again, you've mentioned it before that we've talked about. He's a player that he's got that Premier League experience, will get you through games, and again, has delivered in terms of that. I just want to show you something about the goal as well. Regarding that, I'm just looking at the highlights now. So that's the position where Jordan Ayew hits it. Guess who this player is?
Vestergaard. I saw it yesterday as well. I was wondering,
that's
the fact that he's up there, incredible.
unbelievable. I was like, oh my God, obviously I can't play it now to show you because it might don't want Lox's Gene to get copyright and take it down. But that's Vestergaard getting in the box late on, which was unbelievable.
I don't know why we don't do that more. In my old days, we used to have a centre-back, Matt Elliott, who was unbelievable at scoring goals. I think he might have scored 15 goals in one season. And I remember once we had an emergency situation, a striker. It was away at Everton. It was on Sky Sports, and it was Boxing Day fixture or New Year's Day. And we put him as an emergency striker. He scored twice, and one of them was like a Cruyff turn there or something silly. Having the old-fashioned big man in the box, just to, if nothing else, just to create a bit of panic amongst the defence.
Chaos.
It really does help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chaos. You're right though. Chaos, absolutely, 100%. It's a lot of fans like to talk about Plan B and all of that stuff, and I suppose you could class that as a Plan B of some kind.
You think about where Soumare started, came all the way back, won the ball, and came up. Vestergaard's, I won't say matched him, but he's got in the box at that time. It's not like we were playing slow football, so it's an option. I'm not saying that we have to do it, but I was just surprised to see him there in that position because I've not seen him even under Steve Cooper where he'd really done that before.
I think I've seen a few games this season now when it gets really, really late, and I mean injury time, 93, 92 minutes plus, and the team has really got nothing to lose. A lot of teams are just going two at the back only, two coverers for any kind of counter, and everyone else has to just pile in forward. And having someone there at 6'6", even though he's ironically not the best header of the ball in an attacking situation anyway, but you look at him and think, my God, this guy's huge. He's just going to distract you naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about before we finish, everybody, is right. So some of us fans called for the manager's head rather early this season. I am one of them. I don't know about you guys in particular, but I am one of them. And one thing that fans said to me straight away was, after 10 games, then we'll talk about it. So 10 games have now gone, 10 Premier League games. We're on 10 points and we're 15th in the league. Who wants to start us off with an assessment of that and where you think we go from here? What your verdict is of the opening 10 games?
We've had an easier run in, and we've got, if we carry on this way, we get 38 points at the end of the season. We get 1 point per game. 10 games playing, 10 points. It's not as easy as that, but it depends on if are there three worse teams in the Premier League than us that are going to reach 38 points.
38 will stay up.
Like that.
We'll stay up. 38 will stay up.
It will, if our luck continues, because at times we've been kind of lucky at times. But for me, it's I don't see what he's building. I don't see, is there a structure, is there a plan? Where are we going? And we are staying up, but it's what are we building in order to stay up? And I just don't see exactly what his plan is. And if it is his tactics, it's making the team weaker.
Man, I know Manny agrees with that. I mean, loads of us agree on that part of it, Neil, what you said about, what does it build and where is the progression? But so I want to get Doc's thought. What do you think, mate, about Cooper overall? Because again, if the season, I said this to you yesterday, if the season ended tomorrow or today, we'd be up, we'd be safe, which is a success. But where do we go from here?
I think at the end of the season, even if we stay up, we should sack Cooper, to be honest. We should be thankful for what he's done and kept us up. But he doesn't seem like a kind of project manager who, in 2-3 years' time, I could see him having us push for Europe. I simply do not see that. The thing for me, and what makes me unsure about this, is I wholeheartedly believe we have a squad that can stay in the Premier League. I'm struggling to judge if these tactics, like how much of this is Steve Cooper. Some of it still seems like Soumare ball and the players just doing what they did last year. Like, what's his imprint on the squad? Is he making us better? Is he making us worse? I mean, I very much disagreed with the starting 11 multiple times throughout the season. We've had, as been told already, right? We've had a pretty easy run in, all things considered, compared to teams like Wolves, for example, who's had to face all the big teams, and we are about to do that for the next few months. We've gotten 10 points on the board, but we've come from behind way too many times. Our defense in some places seems in shambles. But then again, I mean, we've been able to get the points that we need for now at the very least. So I'm very unsure about where I stand on him, to be honest. It's hard for me to make that conclusion, because I feel like if we had Graham Potter, would he have done better? I think so. I think he would have done more with the squad, because, and I said this yesterday, to me, at the very least, I am leaning towards, I feel like these points that we are gaining are on the back of individual players' brilliance and performances. And I'm unsure how much of the credit then goes to the players like Soumare and Ayew for doing some very smart pieces of work, or how much of this goes to Cooper or Tate yesterday, right, with the substitutions, and like how much of an imprint do they have on these points you're making? It's hard to judge. Whereas with Enzo, you could see we were getting points because of his system, his way of football. And I don't know if it's the players or Cooper getting us the points right now.
Manny?
They say the table doesn't lie. The table is lying at the moment. And the reason the table is lying at the moment is because we've actually played 4 teams below us in the league in those 10 games, and we're 15th. So we have had lots of favourable fixtures to get to 1 point per match. So you can't use that metric to sort of extrapolate that we're going to get 38 from 38. November coming up, we've got Man United away, Chelsea at home, and Brentford away. There's a strong case to suggest we might get 0 points from all those 3 games. And at the same time, Wolves, who are our direct rival, you would think still, for this 3rd spot for relegation, assuming Southampton and Ipswich are going to go down. Wolves, at the same time, do you know who they're facing? They are facing Southampton at home, Fulham away, and Bournemouth at home. In 3 games' time, we could find ourselves in the bottom 3. And I think for a few weeks now, fans have been, enjoying being 14th, 15th in the league, win against Forest, we're going to go up to 9th, that kind of talk. It's been under a falsehood. And the falsehood is we've had favourable fixtures, particularly recently. And if we are struggling to get a point at Ipswich, if we're struggling to win away at Southampton, we're going 2-0 down to do these things. We did beat Bournemouth. It's proved a cracking result. But, remember the game. The second 45 minutes was all Bournemouth. They hit the bar twice. I think they had a penalty shot too, if I'm not mistaken.
They scored, which shouldn't be given shouldn't be given as well.
There we go. So if you want to make a real judgment, 10 games is not an appropriate number. The appropriate number would be 19. So you've played everybody once at least, so you have a better metric. And I think at Christmas time, you're going to find ourselves much, much closer to this bottom 3 than we think. And that this pressure that we're talking about is going to be ramped up.
And could we go through some of those fixtures we've got for the remainder of those 19 games? Manchester United at home. Then we've got Chelsea at home, Brentford away, West Ham at home, Brighton at home, Newcastle away, Wolves at home, Liverpool away, Man City at home.
Yeah.
That's tough. Just look at the next. Even the next 6: United, Chelsea, Brentford, West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle. Even them games, and then after that, we've got Wolves, which again on papers is one of the easier fixtures, but following up that, you've got Liverpool, you've got Man City, and you've got Villa. So it's just relentless, isn't it? Now coming up, really.
We've been enjoying ourselves for a little bit recently, thinking, we're comfortable, we're going to stay up, everything is going to be fine. Or the people like us who were critical of Cooper initially have been, we've been forced to backtrack because we've had back-to-back wins. But this situation is likely to change very, very, very soon. Look, if we pick up a results and if we get a point at Man United, for example, or we get a point in some of these games, then they are good points, genuinely good points. But there is a very strong case to say we could get 3 beatings in the next 3 games. And all of a sudden, this Sunday morning, which is very polite chat this morning, is going to be amped up and a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Just one more point to add to this whole Cooper thing that I noticed yesterday that I didn't actually mention yet is the adaptation from when we were playing this Enzo basketball, right? Normally, very quickly, when we were struggling to build up from the back, you'd see Enzo make these slight changes and tweaks. We didn't do that against Ipswich, or the changes we did make were absolutely horrible, hoofing the ball long and just praying we could win the second ball. We didn't have the physicality to do so because Ipswich knew how to play against Enzo basketball. They pressed very highly with 4 people to block off every single possibility, pretty much. And we didn't find the solution to it. And that's the problem, right? We should have a mandate that you just say, we do this or this, we make a formation tweak or whatever. We spent the whole first half trying to do the same thing. And then when we gave up and just hoofed it long, we didn't have the physicality to win the balls. And that was a thing that I remember sitting there yesterday thinking, I'm really disappointed here. Like, why aren't we making any slight change here to make this work or be able to build up from the back? Because the only solution Cooper had was absolutely woeful, and even worse than just continuing to try and force building out from the back. And that was a worrying sign for me yesterday. But if we get smash and grabs against United and Chelsea, I mean, my doubts will just be lingering for a bit longer, I guess.
The recurring thing for me has been lack of cohesion. That's what feels apparent to me. It feels like, Buonanotte is doing something individual. He might create a bit of magic. We might create a bit of magic if he gets a one-on-one something. Maybe Mabadidi will create something. But we're not playing as an actual unit structurally. We're not moving forward together. We're not always moving back together. We don't have ideas, clear patterns. That is the thing that really concerns me above all the rest. The one positive side, though, is that the players are, for Steve Cooper, they're all putting in a shift. They're all working hard. They're all fighting back. So clearly it's not all negative. They are trying their hardest. I just think there needs to be more clarity about what we're trying to do.
It does seem like that is the issue on multiple occasions, multiple positions of the team. A lack of cohesion seems to be the biggest problem, especially, I mean, again, if I just bring up this, where is it? This again, I mean, in that period where it is all Ipswich, every time we win the ball, there just didn't seem to be a plan. There was no clear plan. The players didn't know what they were doing. And I agree with you about Facundo, by the way, because, I feel like when we do play more of this Enzo style, Enzo system, Facundo looks lost. And I don't know if that is partly down to he wasn't a part of that team last season.
I think so.
He doesn't know the role as well as Ndidi, for example. But he does look lost, which is a shame because you could argue, he's our best player at the minute.
Well, that's one of the reasons. Do you remember Foden is naturally a number 10, but he's had to conform to Pep's system. There's a similar situation going on with Facundo here with us. He's an individual flair play who clearly wants to be central 10, attacking, trying to shoot, trying to dribble. But our system relies much more on intricate passing than it does on individual dribbling. So there is a case, if we want to get technical and down the line, as to whether Facundo suits this system. If we're going to do it, are we going to play it? But I don't think we're executing the system properly yet anyway, but that's for another show.
Yep. And let's end on this. If just going around, man of the match for yesterday, if you had to give one out, I think, who did you say yesterday, Doc? You gave it to, did I ask you? I'm sure I asked
Yeah. I think I ended up giving it to Soumare simply due to the work rate there to win the ball back later in the game. But I thought it was a tough call. There wasn't a particular standout player for 90 minutes. I thought Fatau had some good moments, some bad moments. I think Vestergaard was mostly consistent, but had a few big blunders as well. I thought Wings was all right, but that was a big leg of a stand-up. If there's anyone, I guess maybe I would give it to Vardy because he didn't do much wrong the game and a very good assist in the end for starting players. But there was no clear man of the match for me yesterday, to be honest.
Yeah, Neil really doesn't like the idea of giving Soumare man of the match.
Yeah, I can see that.
I was trying to think of a man of the match because there wasn't anybody. You mentioned Vardy potentially, but it wasn't his fault. He just didn't get served the ball. He didn't get the ball enough. I know it sounds really weird. It sounds quite pessimistic. Might give it to Calvin Phillips for getting sent off. So if he didn't, I don't think we'd get back into the game. And I know that's horrible to say, but looking at it, I might genuinely give it to Calvin Phillips because after that, then we started to really get into the game.
Yeah, Manny, again, I know you've only seen the highlights, but
I've only seen the highlights, but I would agree with Soumare. It's not necessarily about 90-minute performance, of course. It's about moments in the game. And it's late on, and you need somebody to do something. We're screaming for all of our players. Someone, come on, create something, win a tackle, get something going. And he's the one who ultimately did get it going. And that's back-to-back, twice in a week, from a player who's showing like enthusiasm and he's fighting for us. That's what we wanted out of Soumare. We want him to fight for the badge. And he's been fighting for the badge. And I'd love to see that from a player who was seemingly lost. Now he's back in the fold. So, I want to boost his ego, boost his confidence, give him man of the match.
We love a redemption arc. I mean, look at Vestergaard last season. We thought he was dead and buried at Leicester City. Who knows? Soumare might do the same. But I agree with what Neil is saying. I do agree that it is easy to get hyped up over a player. But again, that's what we're football fans for. This is why we do it, right? If we were just gonna sit there all timid and be like, oh, well, Soumare probably going to be shit next. I mean, there's no point, no optimism. So thanks to the lads. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me this morning. Manny and LCFC Doc are sometimes on Foss Hub. So you can catch them guys there. Obviously, it's LCFC_Doc on X and Go on, mate. I always forget.
Cyber Duderino. You still need to watch The Big Lebowski, Locks. Educate yourself. Watch The Big Lebowski. It's a classic.
And of course, Neil, Beyond the 90. I'm sure you'll have some stuff coming out soon, mate. So yeah, go and check them out and hit subscribe, of course. Thanks to people in the chat, much appreciated. We will be live again tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. with a nil for the live call-in show. So plenty of opportunity for people to call in and give their thoughts on how amazing Soumare is and his Ballon d'Or win next season. So cheers all, thank you so much, and I'll catch you tomorrow evening. Bye.